Come to order, please rise, pledge allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come before you just saying thank you, Lord, for another day. We ask that you guide us and direct us. And in the midst of this meeting, Lord, we ask for all these blessings in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Also, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Mark Smith, who passed away this past week, and also for my family, who I lost an aunt in Iowa. Thank you.
Clerk Golick, roll call.
Markovich. Here. Spitali. Here. Venez.
Here.
Kalwinski. Here. Salinas.
Here.
Higgs.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Canosa. Opinker.
Here. The records show 8 present, 1 absent. Number 3, reading of minutes.
Mr. President.
Councilman Spitali.
Make a motion to accept the minutes for June 25th, 2012. Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Kowinski to accept the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? Minutes passed. Number 4, approval of claims.
Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
move for approval of claims for June 20th through July 3rd, 2012, for council meeting July 9th, 2012. Beginning with claims dated 6/26/12 and ending with claims dated 7/5/12, claim number 2828 through claim 3058 for a total of $1,454,104.95. I so move.
Motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Kowinski. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
I'd like to add one additional claim, and the clerk can put the claim number. For Councilman L. Salinas for $589.52 to attend the NALO conference from June 20th to June 24th. I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Spitali for the addition. Is there any discussion on the addition? Is there any discussion on claim 3059? Roll call vote on addition 3059.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali. Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski. Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Canosa. Opinker.
Yes. The amendment passes 8-0, 1 absent. Now on the approval of claims, is there any discussion on the approval of claims? Any discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
Claims as amended. Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Canosa. Opinker.
Yes, claims passes 8-0, 1 absent. Number 5, public hearing. There is none. Number 6, communications.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
received a letter from Dear Councilman Higgs, City Council Chambers, 5925 Calumet Avenue, Hammond, Indiana, 46320. Fear grows in darkness, turn on the lights. Dorothy Thompson, and they are beautiful. Dear Councilman Higgs, the 1100 block of May Street are proud of our street and our neighborhood. May Street is a corridor between two major streets, Columbia Avenue and Calumet Avenue. Therefore, we take pride in the appearance of our area and hope that it sends a positive message about our city and the neighbors to those who use this corridor. This letter is to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for blessing us with the new street lights recently installed. What a joy to behold. Not only do they add beauty to our street, but more importantly, our prayers is that they will serve as a deterrent to the criminal activities that plague our neighborhood in recent years. We all feel a great sense of security right now because of how well lit our street is. Having a railroad tracks about the rear of our property and an odd number side made us open targets for criminal activity. Refusing to give power to the thugs, our blocks through Hammond Safety Light Program lit up our alleys and stopped the burning stolen cars that were constantly being deposited between our homes. May Street, however, continue to be underlit and unsavaged. Things started happening in front. We couldn't seem to get anything done, but God sent us a caring and concerned angel in the form of Councilman Anthony Higgs. Thanks to you, Councilman, our street is now well lit up and will no longer be a hiding place for criminals to continue to tarnish and destroy our neighborhood. We can once again lift our heads in pride and enjoy our street without fear. Also, thank you for the Crime Watch signs at the corner of May Street and Columbia Avenue. Please know that everything you are doing to help make our neighborhood safe is appreciated, and we will not forget you when you need us. Thank you again, and may God bless and continue to bless you. Ms. Amanda A. Jones, 1100 block of May Street.
Any other communications?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs?
just like to thank Clerk Golick as well as Councilman Markovich and Judge Harkin and those who all participated in the annual 3-on-3 tournament. It was a huge success. We were able to give away about 15 bikes to kids throughout the neighborhood and throughout our city, and as well as a number of computers and McDonald's cards. So I just want to personally say thank you and know that I really appreciate you supporting the efforts of making our youth have recreation throughout the city.
Any other communications? Communications is now closed. Committee reports, there are none. Ordinance third and final reading, there are none. Number 9, introduction of ordinances.
Item A, ordinance 12-36, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. An ordinance to appropriate additional funds in the budget of Hammond Department of Environmental Management.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 12-36 pass through first and second reading and be referred to council as a whole, with a public hearing set for August 13, 2012.
It's a motion by Councilman Kowinski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Venez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance passes first and second reading.
Item B, ordinance 12-37, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. An ordinance creating a section of Chapter 37 of the Hammond Municipal Code pertaining to the creation of a dishonored check fee in the city of Hammond.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 12-37 pass through first and second reading and be referred to council.
Second. Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Emerson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 1237 goes into council as a whole, first and second reading.
Item C, ordinance 12-38, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. And ordinance amending ordinance numbers 8816 and 8982, also known as section 101.017 of the Hammond Municipal Code, pertaining to scavengers in the city of Hammond.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 12-38 pass through first and second reading and be referred to council as a whole.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance passes first and second, goes into council as a whole.
President Opinker, that concludes the reading of the ordinances.
Number 10, resolutions. There are none. Number 11, new and unfinished business.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
just want to send a letter to the Board of Works on August 4th, the 1100 block of Cleveland. We'll be having a back-to-school party, and I just want to make sure the barricades are put up, as well as we have garbage cans and some picnic tables for the back-to-school party in the 1100 block of Cleveland. I so move.
Motion by Councilman Higgs. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Spitali to have a letter sent. All those in favor? Opposed? Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is now closed. Number 12, public expression. Thank you, Clerk Golick. Our first speaker will be Ella Anderson. Otterson.
Good evening. As I spoke with you guys earlier,
Would you please speak in the mic, ma'am?
as I was speaking with you guys earlier about the disturbances in the neighborhood, I live in the 6400 block of Woodward Avenue, also the 6400 block of Euclid. There's a lot of late night partying, and as the cars come and go throughout late night, a lot of them have Illinois plates on them, so I know they don't live in the neighborhood. And the next morning you wake up, you have garbage all over the lawns and everything. And like I said, I've called the police several times concerning that. Again, with the fireworks, but I know that's over by now, as far as the fireworks are concerned. But we have complaints about the late night partying in our neighborhood, and we do have seniors living in our neighborhood and working people. So if we can have, the police can, patrol the area just a little bit more, just to see what's going on, we would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Anderson, I did get a phone call from you, and I will notify the chief in terms of getting more police presence in the 6400 block of Woodward.
Oh, thank you.
Second speaker, Maria Bonilla.
Good evening. It's about the same problem, the misunderstanding stuff. So we neighbors and we concerned about the problem we have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Warren Potter.
Good evening, council. How you guys doing today? It's about the scavenging permits. I've lived in Hammond for several years. I've been permitted for 3-4 years through the city of Hammond. It's my livelihood. It's how I make my money. My fiance's handicapped. I just got her out of the wheelchair last year. She can't work. Taken away to scrapping. I mean, there's no jobs really out there to get, and it's going to be real tough for a lot of people. I mean, I'm not stealing anything. I ain't taking anything. I mean, there's got to be some way with an even ground for everybody to make everybody happy, you know what I'm saying? I came here tonight just to hopefully try to rectify the problem and keep scrapping in the city of Hammond. Licensed, insured, permitted. My truck has the number on the door. I mean, yellow light on top. You know, there's a lot of people who depend on, you know, a couple dollars during the week. And taking scrapping out of Hammond's going to affect a lot of people. I think it might be a reverse effect instead of a good effect taking scrapping out of Hammond.
Okay, thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you very much. You have a great night.
Thank you, Officer Bakary. Fourth speaker, Mary Ellen Slazak.
First of all, I want to thank Councilman Higgs for the lights. They look great. The lights on my street are absolutely gorgeous. It really adds to the character of the neighborhood. They're appreciated. We needed the extra lighting. I really do appreciate it, Councilman Higgs. Thank you very much. I'm here about the scavenger ordinance, too. This is ridiculous. These people are licensed. They are trying to make a living. They're not thieves. Now, I had one scavenger back a few years ago that did come in my yard and try to steal my stuff. Matter of fact, he had most of my stuff loaded on his truck. And after I went out there and confronted him, he thought it was in his best interest to put everything back exactly the way it was in my yard, and that was the end of that story. But they're not thieves. I have seen many families going through the alleys, and I'm talking families. I'm talking moms and dads with their kids looking for cans because they're hungry. Okay, you can only get so much from a food pantry. And food pantries don't give you soap and toilet paper, toothpaste, diapers, and those kind of items. You get canned goods, maybe you'll get some meat, some old chicken, maybe hamburger. But you're not going to get everything you need from a food pantry. So I don't want to hear, well, there's food pantries available, because there's a lot of things you cannot get from a food pantry. These people are hurting. The reason they're in the alley is because they don't have a job. The economy is horrible out there. My husband's been off work for a year and a half. He hasn't worked steady in almost 10 years, and we are struggling. I'm not an active scrapper. I don't have a truck out there and picking up scrap. I don't have that. So I'm not in the league with some of these guys, but I feel their pain because I know what I'm going through. Anyway, scrappers are a win-win for the city and the taxpayers, and I tell you why. They're recycling, number one. And that's a good thing, because where does this stuff go? Where do these refrigerators, stoves, and all these other big items go? They're going to landfills. And what does that do? It costs the city money, which in turn costs the taxpayers a lot of money too, because they have to pay for tipping fees. This is a plus for the city, for the taxpayers, for the environment, to have these scavengers go and pick up the stuff. Hey, as long as they're licensed and they're going by the rules, why stop them? They're doing everybody a favor, and they're supporting themselves and their families. But you ought to see what I've seen in my alley. When you've got mothers and fathers, and even sometimes mom with a couple kids, and they're picking up cans. This is how bad our economy is, and you want to stop them from doing this? Where's the humanity here?
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker will be Susan Lambeth.
Good evening. I'm just here to ask the council. I don't know if any of you remember last week, or last city council meeting, I brought up the parking situation at 6732 and 6736 Calumet Avenue, the Flat Rock Tap and the Petite Beauty Salon. And I was just wondering if there were any updates. And then I also wanted to bring to the council's attention that neither of these parking lots have specified handicap spots, which I believe is in violation of the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and also in Indiana Code IC 5-16-9, which requires that all businesses have space, depending on the amount of parking they have spaces available for handicap. 1 to 25 spaces would require one reserved spot. So I just wondered if anyone had any updates as to where that situation lies with the gravel parking lot and the flooding that we get from that parking lot.
Mr. President.
Ma'am, if you have any questions after the meeting, I suggest you talk to your councilman or councilman at large is in your district in regards to that issue.
You can't give me any updates
No.
right at the moment. Okay.
Our next speaker, Mr. Eduardo Cullen.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here for the scavenging as well. Real quick, let me introduce myself. My name is Eduardo Colon. I live in the Hammond district for over 10 years. I purchased my home 3 years ago. I lost my job due to the economic crisis, and just a few months after, I have not been successful in finding employment. My wife had been blessed in her company and had to carry out the burden of supporting the family and bills. As I am a man, I had to resort to other means. I had been peddling over a year and had been a great help to our family. I used this to pay the bills and put food on the table. I would like to have a steady position in a company that can accept me, but until then, this is my bread and butter. I am not breaking the law. I'm not buying drugs, nor stealing. We can organize this privilege that the city of Hammond will provide the people like me to understand that if this is taken away, it will affect my family and myself. Now, I understand there's scavengers out there that is not permanent. We got people out there that is not citizens out there scrapping. People from Illinois coming to Indiana scrapping. Now, we can't be penalty just because there's other scavengers that's not doing things the right way, and we have to pay for their mess-ups. As me, I feel that I'm pretty much professional. I have logos on my truck. I have logos on my shirt, which I walk around with it, announcing people what I do. It's not if that I'm putting myself out there, but I am putting myself out there. So therefore, if they see a name out there, they know what I'm doing. I'm trying to work. If anything comes wrong, they could actually call the law enforcement, and then I could be corrected. Okay? Now, I feel that we should not be punished. If anything, scavenging should stay here in Hammond because we are helping the environment. But we can make a difference, and maybe when we get our permit, maybe we could get a big orange sticker with Hammond print or stamped, and either put both of them and stick it on both sides, and let the citizens in the Hammond district let us know that when they see these bright stickers, that we're legal scrappers and peddlers, that we're doing is legal is right. Those that don't have it got the right to call the law enforcement, get these people, the scavengers, investigate if they're stealing, and if they are stealing or not, having a permit or not, take the trucks away and you can take them to jail. Either way, by doing that in all meeting, gives money to the city because they shouldn't have been doing and breaking the law because people like us trying to do things right and they come mess it up. So here we are now that you guys trying to take this away from us. I'm trying to be as professional as I can. I'm a man. I always walk on my head high. I'm not going to put my head down just because I can't find a job, and I'm not going to be petty for myself. I'm going to speak my mind, stand strong, and I'm always will stand strong. So if there's anything that we could do, I am here. I'm willing to make things better. I have a lot of solutions, a lot of ideas that we can make things better, and also put...
Okay, sir, thank you. Your time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker will be Reverend Gomez.
Good evening, Council. My name is Reverend Santiago Gomez. I reside at 5253 Ann Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. I've lived there for 42 years. And I've worked with my councilman, El Salinas. So I want to thank Councilman Salinas officially. I've thanked him in the past for the work that he's done in our area, in our neighborhood, for the infrastructure. Our streets were bad, our sewer was bad, our curbs, our trees, basically everything was bad. And so he invested quite a bit of money on doing this on the Russell and the Ann, and also in Rampack and State Line. There were new sidewalks, new parkways, new trees, new ornamental lighting, and sometimes, we take for granted to tell what people do. But the Word of God says that we should give honor where honor is. do. So, Councilman Salinas, officially, I'd like to thank you for all that you have done for our neighborhood and for us here in the city of Hammond. So, keep up the good work. Also, I mentioned that at the meeting that we had in our district that there was 2 ornamental lighting that were out, and we said that we're going to look into it. One is on Ann Avenue, the one also on Russell, and you know, I would appreciate if somebody would take care of that, because most of the night it's off, and then it goes on and it just blinks and then goes off, both of them. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Gomez. Next speaker, Teresa Torres.
Good evening. Some of you may recognize me. I'm the director of Everybody Counts. That's the nonprofit agency that sued local transit systems in federal court. I'm here for 2 reasons tonight. First is to dispel the rumors that we've heard that somehow we're going to be suing the city of Hammond. That's nowhere near correct. However, I believe that most of you are disappointed in the RBA's failure to succeed because of the impact it has on your citizens. And there are a lot of rumors out there, actually a lot of things in the paper that actually are not correct. I thought it was important for you as a council to know that what you've read about in the papers and what you've heard is actually not what's going to happen. You've read that the citizens of Hammond will continue to be served with paratransit services through the same provider. That's actually incorrect as of today. What NERC is planning to do, now see, the problem here is most people don't know the difference between legal terms when it comes to transportation. Demand response is what North Township is currently providing. Paratransit is what a fixed route service provides. Now they sound the same, but they're incredibly different. Paratransit operates with very high standards. Whatever hours there are fixed route on the road, that's the hours you get paratransit services. You have to provide at least 24-hour notice. With demand response, it can be up to 2 or 3 depending on what the need is. So the standards of operation are much greater for paratransit services. Gary Public Transit was perfectly willing as the fixed route provider, and East Chicago agreed with that, to oversee paratransit services in Hammond so that your citizens could continue to have access to the high quality, greater services that paratransit services are. In fact, the plan is to do something entirely different, and that is for NERC to contract directly with First Transit, I might add without benefit of an RFP, a request for funding proposal, to continue providing demand response services. At the present time, right this minute, your citizens are being provided services by a contractor with no contract whatsoever. Now, we happen to believe that one of the intents and purposes is to avoid compliance with the consent decree, and that's really unfortunate because finally we have trained riders. In fact, you have a member in the audience tonight who want to be of service. The whole reason for the consent decree wasn't to fight with anyone, but to bring the ridership together to work with your transit system on improvements. Just as we're about to do that, the whole setup is going to change. So I just encourage you to get all the facts, to understand the difference between those 2 services, and to ask questions of people who are purporting to continue serving your citizens. As you move forward, our agency remains very committed, as do the ridership that have been trained now, to work with you. We understand you don't have funds for it, but it's still your community. These are your riders, and so we thought you needed to know all the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres. Next speaker, Raymond Fletcher.
Thank you, Council President Opinker, members of council. First, thanks for allowing me to sign in late. I was just being lazy today. Good things. My street's almost done. I appreciate all the hard work on it. And downtown Hammond by the hospital is looking great. For the first time in many years, I can actually travel level to the sidewalks in the street. Now I'm here. Contrary to popular opinion, I don't like being combative. I don't like fighting all the time. I like actually just doing the work, and moving on to the next challenge. So it disappoints me to come before you and say that unfortunately the Regional Bus Authority has failed. And I'm not going to sit here and toot my horn or bust out pom-poms or have a banner saying I was right. But if you had been willing to listen to the ideas and the information that I put forth 3 years ago, we wouldn't be in our position we are today. We wouldn't have people that are dependent on public transportation for work without it. You know, and here we are, Ms. Torres alluded to NERC and everything else going on, and it's a shell game that I brought to you guys. You know, unfortunately, moving forward, we have no certainty what's going to happen. But what we do know is that the RBA has not secured the funding source. The RDA did not give them the $2 million. And GPTC is the only system that has realistically operated a regional system. What's next? We work with our resources that we have. We help build up GPTC, and hopefully for not too many days, these people that are dependent on public transportation to get to work and to access life have an opportunity to regain that freedom. You know, I easily can complain about how the buses, for lack of a better word and to be unprofessional, suck. But I also have a wheelchair. It's not a car. But many of you have seen me driving up Calumet Avenue every morning going to work. You know, I'm going to be all right. I just worry about the older people that I've always talked about. But as I started here, I do remain here committed to work with you on this issue. And I hope that we can put any hostilities, any anger, any personal animosity that we may have as individuals, because we're human beings, we do have animosity on different levels for people for whatever reason. But I'm hopeful that we can put that aside and work together and rebuild this transit infrastructure that our community so desperately needs. 30,000 riders, I don't believe it was that, but there were some, and there is a need. Again, thank you for letting me sign in late. Thank you for your time. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Next speaker, Mr. George Stoya.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer my support, whatever it's worth, of the scavengers. I haven't read the ordinance, but if, in fact, it's to eliminate the possibility of privatized scavenging, I guess, for want of a better term, I think it's kind of like maybe the better alternative is to regulate it and kind of limit the number of scavengers that could work in the city of Hammond, kind of like the way they do in some of the larger metropolitan areas, where they limit the number of cabs, for example, that can work within a given city at any given time, supply, demand, price, and all that stuff. But in this case, it seems like we're being what's the word, attacked, or from I guess people abusing the privilege, right, whatever it is, to do this. Some of them appear to be from Illinois, maybe all of them, I don't know. But I think maybe the better course is, and let's be frank, there's a flip side to it. Like a lot of you, I kind of like being able to take something that's maybe still got some residual value or utility in it, and putting it in the alley, and knowing that somebody's going to come by within a reasonable time, believe it or not, and pick it up. And maybe, whatever they do to it, salvage it in some way, shape, or form. It beats having to call the city and sometimes waiting to whenever they can come out there. The street department, I think, handles that stuff, Mr. Gleason's department. But, I'm accustomed to it. It's not just that, it's their livelihood, but I think a lot of us are accustomed to it. So, and in addition to that, while they're in business, they can, and they would have the effect of, you wouldn't have to put more people on the street department should people be putting things out in the alley. I don't know what to call it. It's not garbage, really. It's still salvageable stuff as a rule. I've seen anything from televisions to stoves to, refrigerators, lamps, name it. But it also might keep the costs down to the city and their budgets on the street department. They won't have to hire anybody or transfer people from different departments into there, or whatever the case may be. If the street department is tied up in something else, an emergency or something, you know, these guys can maybe help keep some of the costs down. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Stoya. That ends our public expression for this evening.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
I'd like to go make a motion, go back to regular order of business, doing unfinished business.
There's a motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Higgs, to go back to the regular order of business. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
first of all, I'd like to say that, you know, I understand what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and I really, really, truly realize the fact that a lot of people are not working. This is their livelihood. This is their only means to provide for their family, and I sympathize with you. So I want you to know that, and having an opportunity to discuss that earlier today with Tiger, as we call her, and it just opened my eyes and made me realize that just how important this is to people that are trying to provide for their families. Secondly, in terms of the buses, I was in favor of keeping the buses initially, and then we end up giving money to the RDA, and of course they failed now, and that was the issue that I had, that when we gave the money is that they had means of securing funding for in the future. And I knew that at some point this day would come where we would be at a point where the buses would disappear, and the people that are most indolent and are in need of transportation in our cities to get to and from work would be affected. And it's a shame that, you know, it falls in the lap of me and my colleagues in the city in terms of trying to come up with a realistic way of recognizing and approaching the issue in an effective way. What do? Now we have people now that are dependent on transportation to get to and from work, to get to the hospital, office visits, just to get groceries on a day-to-day basis. And it's just a shame that, you know, and to me, that money would have been better used possibly if we would have just kept it here in our city and try to find out another way, or try to work out some kind of agreement with the state or something in terms of getting some grants or something. That agency really should have, actually the buses should have just stayed here in Hammond. And when we lost our transportation, that means the people that are most dependent are now trying to find ways to not only get to work, but to get to the doctor. And it's not a good thing, and it doesn't help our city. It doesn't make the city grow, and it affects a number of people in the city. And then, you know, hopefully, and I don't know how and when, but hopefully maybe God will send us a blessing and somehow or another we'll get buses back. But, you know, it's really, in this time and day, you know, people are really depending on just getting to work. They can't afford it, you know. Can't even afford to pay rent. They're struggling just trying to pay rent and keep a roof over their heads. And some people are just trying to get to and from work with the buses, or to school, Calumet College or Purdue. I mean, it's pretty sad, but all you can do is hope that things will work out in the end and try to come up with solutions. But, you know, again, I wasn't in favor of the buses leaving. And here we are again, and now they've totally disappeared. We give them this money thinking that they're going to work out the issues to make a difference. And in fact, they didn't secure any funding to keep the buses going. So that's where we're at.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Markovich.
I got a call from a radio station about this scavenger thing. And I told them, I says, I wasn't the sponsor, and didn't know why something like this was being introduced. And apparently, it's brought a lot of wrath from a lot of the people out here. And I agree with you. I concur with you. Now, me being on the city council 25 years, and I'm sorry that our city attorney, Mr. Daverton, left because they probably need this. I've been here 25 years and gone through this before. And I asked our attorney, Bob Berger, he didn't write this ordinance, okay? So we had the other ordinance before, where the one that's in effect, and I have no problem with it. And, you know, they say in here it's, you know, isolated incidences where people are coming in their backyards. Well, you know what? People don't have any right to come in your backyard and look for scrap. I mean, I've caught one myself and just come in and said, what are you looking for? You know, you have no business being here. I got on the phone, I called a cop, gave a description, and they arrested a guy for trespassing or whatever. I'll follow the charges. You have no business there. If you really want to carry it further, nobody should be in an alley after dusk. I don't care if you're walking your dog or kids are walking through the alley, because nobody's got any business to be walking down alleys at night, because you're just looking for trouble. And I'm sure scavengers probably shouldn't maybe even be allowed to operate after 6 o'clock, because when the wintertime comes, it's dark at 5:30 already. But I talked to Denise Sena, who's the city attorney in Whiting. I called her up about it. And she was to be a city attorney here. And what had happened in the past, before we even had the scavenger ordinance, we had our own city workers. We were taking the scrap to the Conkey Street. We had our own city workers taking the scrap and getting the money themselves, which was wrong, which was illegal. So here we had a case, our own city employees picking up the scrap on city time and taking it to the scrapyard and getting the money for it. So that was stopped. You know, you come up with some of these ordinances sometimes, and it's called government bureaucracy. And you don't know what the financial consequences are going to be. This one's a bad ordinance. It is. Because, like in Whiting, what they do, they only have 1 square mile. We have 26 square miles. Whiting has an ordinance there, and they have their signs posted that says, you know, scavengers aren't allowed or anything. Whiting can go around once a week, twice a week, whatever, because it's only 1 square mile down the alley. Pick up the scrap, take it to their yard, and they get the money for it, and it goes to their general fund, which is good. Hammond has 26 square miles. And I'm going to give you an example of what happened this past week. Because of the hot weather, the sanitary district started at 4 o'clock in the morning so they could be done by noon before it got to be real hot. Well, people take their garbage out on Thursday and Friday because that's when it went in effect. They don't take it out till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock because they know that they're not going to come until the afternoon. There was no forewarning other than on the radio or maybe a little ad in the newspaper that, you know, they're going to start at 4 and 12. People took their garbage out after 12 o'clock or after the garbage men came. Guess what? We had to send our sanitary workers back up and down the alleys twice the second time now to go pick up the garbage. Especially, you cannot leave that garbage there from Thursday, Friday, and have it there sitting there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, wait until next Thursday. I mean, the theory was good, it worked, it was hot weather, that's fine. But some kind of notice should have been put out. You better have your garbage out the night before and don't wait till noon Friday, the day of pickup. So here that costs us more money. So one of these other ordinances that are similar to this was garage sales. People are hurting for money. Now you got the red tape, you got to go get the permit and everything else and all of that. And you know what? You go check what a lot of these people that are doing garage sales, they don't have their permits. And it's like one of the things I believe the administration said, we're not going to enforce it. We're not going to put anybody in jail. The people are hurting. Now, what happens here, you know, if you got an old water heater you want to get rid of, put it in the alley. And says, well, aren't you going to call the city? No, it'll be gone within 4 hours, 5 hours in a day. That's saving the city time, money, with the gas, the labor, the wear and tear on the trucks. And it's also helping some of these less fortunate people that lost their jobs, got laid off, or they're hurting, or looking for extra pocket money. The one ordinance we do have is that you cannot go and take like aluminum cans from recycling bins. Now that we do have, and that has stopped. People were doing that, and I'm sure a few of them are still doing it. But that's the money that comes to the city. It keeps our alleys clean, helps those in need. I said about the gas and the labor, the wear and tear on the truck. I mentioned about past city workers where they were taking the scrap themselves. Well, that's basically what it is. But Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, this is a bad ordinance, but I'd like to set up a public hearing on this because here, we've had these people at least come here. I know the newspaper called me, a radio station called me, and I said, well, I'm not the sponsor of it. I don't know the ramifications, but you know what? I think this is a really, really important ordinance that probably should not pass, and I'm sure there's a lot more people out there that need to hear it. Nobody has even checked with our street department how much more money it's going to cost us. Because now we got to use the manpower, the labor, the gas, and the time to go ahead and clean it up ourselves. It's saving us money, and it's helping our constituents. There's 25,000 homes in Lake County that are up for foreclosure. If this is helping some people to put food on the table for their kids so they can move around and everything, we're hurting them. We're hurting the little people. This is not doing anything. And if for the few amounts, and I want to know how many police reports were filed with how many people were stealing something or whatever, or coming in their backyard. But if people are going to be that bold that they're going to come in your backyard or take something, then they ought to be arrested and go to jail. I've called myself, and it's funny, we had this ordinance in effect, and you go to a crime watch meeting, and I had to bring it to the attention of the police department that, hey, you know, you're supposed to have a yellow light flashing, you're supposed to have a permit. And I'm not sure if you're supposed to have a sign on the door or not that you're a scavenger or whatever, but you know, that's another good idea. But I saw somebody last week with a family van with their kids in the car. They had the flashing yellow light. For all practical purposes, they were legal. And God bless that family that they can go out and get some scrap or whatever and maybe take their kids and buy some ice cream or whatever. People are hurt. This is a bad ordinance, and I hope it doesn't pass, but I would like to make a motion that our next council meeting or whatever, we set up a public hearing, and hopefully, you know, something will come about this. Third. I mean, if we want to set it up.
It's motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Higgs to set up a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman? Discussion, please.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Markovich.
You know, when this ordinance was passed on first and second reading, it said council as a whole. We never even set up a committee hearing. So that's why I think we should have a public hearing, and if more people, I mean, we've already heard them, and maybe there's some more out there. And, you know, I've given a lot of reasons, so did Councilman Higgs, and, you know, maybe some other councilman might feel the same way. This is an ordinance that's just going to hurt the people. It's not going to help anybody. And we're not here to hurt anybody. We're here to help you. But, like the gentleman said, make the rules so that those that are law-abiding, that are following the rules, that aren't doing anything wrong, let them, they had their say, and maybe we need to do a public hearing, or maybe this thing won't even come forth. I mean, I would hope that my fellow councilmen will have the compassion and the wherewithal to, you know, think about it now for the next couple of weeks, and maybe we'll just defeat this or just let it sit in committee and let things go like it is. But maybe Mr. Vicari, the police department, Brian Miller might have some suggestions to what they want to do. But this is not, this is just hurting people.
Mr. President.
All right, Councilman Markovich, Councilman Higgs.
Just to piggyback on that, I mean, the reality of it is that I do believe we're going to have to increase our manpower in terms of our alleys and getting the salvage refrigerators and water heaters and all that additional stuff in the alley. And I think, hey, it helps our environment. The fact that they're doing it, I don't see a problem with it. If we need to mandate it and make sure that there are stickers on the vehicle or whatnot, that's fine. But I'm not in agreement with stopping them from trying to provide for their families. And I certainly would hope that if I was in need and I had to do that to provide for my family, it wouldn't stop as well. And so, you know, and I think it's just a good thing for our city, the fact that, and like Councilman Markovich said, in previous years, some of the city workers were actually taking those items on city time and selling them. So what do you want us to, what do you want to deal with? You want to have that reoccur, or you want to let someone provide for their family? And that you have to balance it as the good and the bad. What do you think? It's common sense. Some of these things just need to be prayed on before you make a statement or move forward on them, but hey, there you are.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion to have a public hearing on the scavenger ordinance? Clerk, go at roll call vote. This is for a public hearing, next council meeting on ordinance 1238.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Enosa. Opinker.
Yes. Public hearing passes 8-0, 1 absent.
Mr. President,
Councilman Markovich?
Can you set the date that will be the next council meeting or public hearing?
Yes, I believe I said that. The next council meeting will be the public hearing, which will be
July 23rd.
July 23rd. You know what, let's make that for August 13th along with the other one, 1236.
No, we already voted on it. I prefer it next week.
Okay, all right, next council meeting, which will be July 23rd.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I know the young lady came up to the podium in regards to the establishment of the business that's on Calumet Avenue, and I'm just wondering, are you trying to get the pavement gravel, the gravel actually, do you want it asphalt? Is that what you're trying to get accomplished?
Yeah, we have a lot of dust, and then the cars tear out of the parking lot, and the gravel hits my property, my house, and if I'm out in the backyard, I was out in the backyard a couple weeks ago, and the rock actually hit my fence, my chain link fence. If it hadn't hit the fence, it may have come into the yard and hit me, you know, I don't know, but.
What I will do, ma'am, and I can't make any promises. What I will do is have conversation with the owners of the establishment and see what we can do in terms of them. I don't know if they have money available because, you know, it's quite expensive to have something asphalt.
The thing that confuses me is that the tavern has been there for maybe 6 years and the beauty shop for longer than that, but there was a pediatrician's office that just opened up just on that same block, and she had to comply to all of the ordinances, and I don't know why she had to have fence.
Ma'am, all I can do is tell you is that I will speak to the owner of the establishment and see what we
Okay,
can
Councilman
do.
Higgs, you can take this up after the council meeting. All right. I have a motion, meeting adjourned. Motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Spitali. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.